Welcome to the Be Unstoppable in the Zone podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford and I'm your host. Be Unstoppable for me is all about helping you unlock your incredible human potential and for you to access your mind in a way that it works for you. And that's why I became an empowerment and firewalking instructor, running events where people participate in a way that reveals to them who they truly are without a shadow of a doubt, and therefore enabling people, you, to live the life that you want without any limitation. In the Zone is all about me having a conversation with somebody that is free-flowing and we just see where it goes. But we set off with an intention and we're in the zone chatting. And I've created it in this style so that you feel that you want to chip in at any moment and comment and share your perspective, your thoughts, your ideas, your experiences. And of course you can email me and you can also comment on the link. So sit back or enjoy your drive or your walk for this next episode of In the Zone. You're known as the Inspirator, and I have personally experienced you inspiring a group of, I work for a company called Paramount Hotels and you are a keynote speaker, and that was about 20 years ago. I don't even think you had hair then. And the key thing that I took away then, still to this day, and is so critical, is shut the duck up. That voice in our head that can often be self-harming, can be critical, but also can be amazing. So you've had a lasting, you're still in my head today. And I thought we would just talk around some things that mean a lot to you, picking some words out like intentional. I am all about being intentional. Let's start with that. What's the value in that for you? When did you first learn it? Yes.
Well, first off, thank you for the opportunity, and it's always really interesting when you did something a long time ago and you had an effect on people in a positive way, because ultimately that's what I love to do, which is exactly what you like to do. We want to inspire people to recognize what they have and what they can do. Yeah. And I think that's something we've all got in common, just in terms of that voice in our head. Some people call it, I call it a duck. Yeah. Some people call it a chimp. Dr. Stephen Peters has written a book called The Chimp Paradox, that voice that kind of gets in our way, that makes most of us at various points in our life mismanage ourselves, so we can be our own best friend, but we can easily be our own worst enemy. I think it's easy for us to get in our own way. What's interesting about the duck is I give that less airtime now, because I'm more interested in the opposite of that voice, which is what I would call, the genius that's within all of us. And that might sound a bit strange, but if people go and actually look at the origin of the word genius, it doesn't mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, or it doesn't mean Mozart. It means, in its origin, it means the moral authority. The Romans believed everyone had a genius in them that was guiding them and talking to them in a way that would push their best self into the world, bring that person out. And I truly believe that everyone has a genius within them, but they often need a bit of help to bring that part out, because most of us have been brought up in a world where we're not taught to sing our praises. We're not taught to really do what we feel called to do. So when you say intention, for me, intentionally bringing your best self forwards, that's to me where the magic is. And, that's where I'm kind of at the moment. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I think intention is everything. I think it's in everything. If you're decorating the kitchen, what's the intention? To decorate it with intention. If you're painting, like imagine a dinner party of friends and love and laughter. If you're taking your car to the garage for its MOT, the intention is that the car is driving more smoothly and safely for you afterwards. It's not just, I think we get so caught up in task and getting the job done. I see intention being the magic that we fuel into an action, and the action is the vehicle that then manifests that intentional desire. So it's like really living consciously and on purpose. And I think
I think that's a great explanation of it. And I'm really always interested in people's interpretation of it. And when you said like a to-do list, I think what happens is when we do that or we set goals, it just engages one part of the brain.
Yeah.
It's not when you're intentional, it's like, oh, you're giving it you're everything you've got. You know, you're totally present, you're totally focused because you recognize the importance or the impact of what it is that you're doing. So yeah, I agree. I think intention is the DNA of success. You know, if it's our ability to focus on something, and we all know how easy it is for us to be distracted, how easy it for us to give in to temptation. We know how easy it is to start things and not complete them. But for me, intention is the magic. My business, my 365, is my intentions. 365. See if you can be intentional for 3 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, 365 days, whatever. And you'll probably see that you can be prolific, you can achieve, you can advance, you can progress. So yeah, I totally agree. Intention is where the magic is at.
It's so powerful. Just going back to something that you said, I want to chip in all the time. Try not to, but how we say try not to get distracted. But what I've witnessed in rooms is, because I hold people in their power, that feeling of complete alignment and clarity over what they really want, that, you know, what do they want in their future that enhances their experiences in their life and their fulfillment. And I hold them to that. And then there's that power of being that clear on a goal that's so big can feel really unfamiliar. That's the word, unfamiliar. So then people want to numb. A form of numbing out is the distractions of the phone. I mean, for example, I was speaking at a lunch, and one of the things that I do, I'm a fire walking instructor. It's part of what I do. It's not only what I do, and it's all about intention and focus, but not focus on walking on the fire, but the focus being on, if this fire could do anything for me in my life and my future self, what version of myself am I meeting at the end of the fire? Who am I greeting at the end of the fire? Not, I'm going to walk on this fire and not burn my feet, because that's not intentional. That's an action. But I was doing the rebar bend. You know, have you seen the rebar bend?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had somebody in the audience lined up to do it with me. I'd briefed him on it. But as I got up to speak, about 4 of the gentlemen in the room picked up the phone. And it wasn't that I'd been really well teed up. I mean, the woman that introduced me, even I wanted to hear what I had to say. But it was, I see it as not a lack of respect and not a lack of interest, but more of a numbing out of discomfort and unfamiliarity. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know, when something is unknown or there's a space or a gap, most people want to fill it. And that's why the phone, the internet, they're just incredible tools, but they're massive distractions. And talking of distractions, my phone is going to ring in a few moments, or because they're delivering a drying machine into my house. And but it's incredible, really, if you think about how the world has changed. But what I have, and I was actually, believe it or not, the first person to teach or to show a live firewalk on television on GMTV many years ago, and that was a pretty awesome experience. I was the first person apparently to do it live on British television. So I always like to go first, but I realized it's not really about going first because someone else has gone first before me. You know, other people have shown the way of what we can do, but what we can do and what we do are often 2 different things. And one of the big reasons for that is it's because of our relationship to the future. You talked about future self. You talked about knowing the person that you could become at the end of the firewalk. The facts and the science around this is incredible, that most people don't know who they're going to be a few weeks down the line. And if you don't know who that person is, why would you invest? Why invest in something that is beyond a day, a week, and a month? I don't know when in your life you woke up to the reality that life was more than just the end of the day, the weekend, the party, the holiday. that there was something beyond that. I didn't know about that, and I wasn't interested in it. But I was also living in a lot of fear of I'm not good enough, fear I won't be loved. So I was almost running away from where I was, but running blindly to a place I didn't know. And for many people, that leads to burnout. But what's really fascinating is that if you don't see your future self as someone who's separate to who you are, if you don't see that person, they're not you, but they could be you, then you can do something incredible. If you don't, then we just keep identifying with who we think we are. We get in pain. We get to a point where we're in so much pain, we decide to act, like lose weight, get fit, be healthy, leave a relationship. But invariably, because we don't identify with the person who has had the results that we want in a better relationship, fit, healthy, and well, if we don't identify with that person, once people are out of pain, they'll invariably go back to who they think they are. And I find that when you wake people up, as you also mentioned before about perspective, giving people a different perspective of who they are, who they're being, and the fact that they don't have to be who they are. We are all different to who we were. I don't know whether when you look back to your former self and you think, I mean, I laugh and I don't belittle my former self, but I just realize I am a completely different person. But I didn't consciously choose to be who I am. I've just reacted to a world. But over the last few years, through various different circumstances and experience, I know exactly who I'm committed to being. I know that person. That's the strongest relationship I have is with my future self or my higher self, whatever you want to call it. I'm being guided by that person.
Tell me who that is. Tell me about that future you.
Well, it's me in about 10 years' time. It's me wiser, stronger, more powerful, more experienced. And I'm just emulating that person. I'm just literally doing my best to be that person, to be intentionally that person, because that person is better than me. He has more experience than me. It's like, I don't know, it's strange I'm talking about this because in 2002, I worked with Ronnie O'Sullivan for 2 years of my life. He was one-time snooker world champion. And when he came to see me, he made a 2-hour appointment. He stayed with me for 3 days. When we finally got to the point of what he wanted, and he told me he wanted to win in the future, I'd say, how would you know that you had? Mm-hmm. And he would tell me, he could tell me the person he could see. And I said, Ronnie, that's not you. You think it's you, but that's not you. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to become that person? Is that something that you want to do? Great. Well, that's what we have to start working on. And that person has stopped doing things that you're still doing. And that person has started doing things that you're not doing, vice versa. And then we started this journey. And then he won the world championship for the second time. It's interesting because he's come back into my life. He's actually been living here. He's just gone off to China. But the thing about athletes is they often have something in front of them they're competing towards. Yeah. Most people don't have something that in front of them that is compelling them to act in a way different to how they would normally. And that's why one of the reasons it's so easy to give into temptation and think, well, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow. It's a fascinating, area of conversation to have. And I'm sure there'll be at least one person that'll be listening to this going, I've never thought of it like that. And who knows, they might change as a result of hearing this conversation between two crazy people.
What do you think it is that people are most unwilling to give up? Because I do think athletes are really great at being disciplined and knowing the sacrifices that they need to make that's worth it. They weigh it up, don't they? I know I have got to give up saying yes to going out midweek. I will do it on a Sunday. It's not like I give it up full stop. I will pick it. So it's not like they're losing out because they know the gain is that they want to win the Olympics. And that's really clear to them. They know exactly what that looks like. They know exactly how they're performing. It's in their mind that they can see themselves doing it. And they have that image so clearly. And they are totally willing to give up something because the value of where they're going towards it's within them already. To the rest of the world, the rest of us, what is the thing that people would give us the most benefit but are most unwilling to give up?
Well, we're going to have to hold it there because I'm pretty sure I can hear someone trying to almost knock my door. So in answer to that question, with athletes, like we said, it's easier for them because there's something in front of them that they're working towards. But what's really interesting is when athletes stop, and many of them go into massive depressions because they don't know who they are anymore. That was their identity, and then their self-worth.
Yeah.
And they don't have the discipline, they don't have the structure. And unless humans wake up to the fact that without structure, without discipline, it's just there's temptation and distraction everywhere. So we live in a world, and this kind of really happened in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, where look, you can have what you want. Life is about just taking it easy, sit back, enjoy. That's destroying the world. Why is it that we have all of the problems that we have? We have pandemics of health. I was reading the other day, 97.3% of Americans are unhealthy by 4 basic measures. It's the same here. We've got a minister of loneliness here in the UK right now, where you think about it, we've got more opportunities to connect with each other like never before. So unless people wake up, and you and I, with all the goodwill in the world, we can't wake people up. Well, we can, but they have to wake themselves up in terms of action and being intentional. And I was thinking in the back of my mind there once again about intention is everything.
Yeah.
You and I having this conversation. If I'm doing something else, I'm not looking at you, or I'm looking at the phone. I'm not giving it my all. And humans are designed to focus on one thing. We're terrible at multitasking. In fact, the science shows that women are slightly better multitaskers than men. But even so, our IQs all drop when we try to focus on more than one thing at a time. So
I was I wrote down my intentions for our call, the ripple effect that I want out in the world. But I was having coffee with somebody yesterday who said to me, "Oh, Lisa, have you heard about The Secret?" And he said, he said, "I can't keep this up, but what I did do one day, I was going to go and play a game of golf, and I imagined the golf game going exactly as I wanted it to go. As I was driving, I was holding this focus in my mind." And he said, and I just couldn't hold that any longer. I couldn't repeat it. I couldn't hold it because it was too much for me to do regularly. He says, "Do you ever do it?" I said, "I do it all the time. I live by it." I said, "But the thing is, you don't do it. You don't try and visualize your best performance or your excellence whilst you're in action with something else. Give your brain a chance. Concentrate on driving. Your brain's wanting to keep you alive. It's like doing everything it can, and you're in the most dangerous machine you'll ever be in charge of, and you're asking it to visualize your best game of golf. You do that. You do that before you go to sleep, or when you wake up in the morning, or any opportunity that you get where your mind is not needed for something else. Use it to visualize what you want coming in or what you want to be." And it was just
what's interesting about that is that some people do that. The fact that he did it at all, you're right, but it's because he was ahead of himself. He's driving, but he's thinking about where he's going. He's thinking about what he wants to have happen, and then go out and intentionally try and make that happen. However, for the majority of people that do that, it's not going to work out the way that they envisaged, and they're going to then give up, which is why golf is I think it's one of the best games ever. I think it's amazing, but it's very difficult and challenging because it really shows who people are. So if you play golf with someone, within those 4 hours, you can see who they are, their fears, their worries, their doubt, their frustration. But what's interesting when you said that, because I was thinking, oh, good, he was thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I wonder what happened when it didn't work out the way he envisaged. And this is where I think...
But apparently it did. Apparently you got a brilliant outcome. And I just imagine if you'd done your visualization or do it more repeatedly, but in a time when you're not putting yourself under so much pressure, where you're doing something else that does require your full attention, then what would be possible? And I tell you what I think happened for him. I think he frightened himself. Don't you think it can often happen when the layman does something like visualize, imagine it in such realness as though they're already in it, and then they be it? It's almost like they feel like I can't be this powerful.
Well, it's actually very common in golf that when people shoot their best round of golf, the next round is terrible.
Right.
Uh, and that's often because they're then doubting and really thinking about what they did.
Overthinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overthinking.
That's why, again, golf is a fascinating game, because every golf course is designed to do two things. It's designed to bring out the best in you, but it's also designed to bring out the worst in you. But ultimately, you still choose how you feel, regardless. You know, it's really interesting when we stop and we think about the relationship with ourselves, how we manage ourselves. And I think we've all done it poorly at various points. But what you say there about using the mind, it is this incredibly powerful tool. And my coach, who I worked with for 16 years of my life, I never forget what he said to me once. He said, "What's the nature of the mind?" And I can't remember exactly what I said, but he kind of laughed at me. And he said, "No, the nature of the mind is the mind plays tricks on you. That's what the mind does." In Buddhism, they call it dukkha. In Hinduism, they call it maya, which is the illusions that the mind creates.
Coyote.
Then he said, "How do you conquer your mind?" And I don't remember exactly what I said, but he laughed again and he said, "Look, the only way you can conquer your mind is you have to be able to observe your mind and find humor in what you're thinking. If you can't find humor in what you're thinking, you'll be a victim, and you will not be able to direct your mind as well as you could do." Because I think the mind is, for me, my perception, my understanding is my mind is a tool, and I can put it where I want. And if I put it intentionally in certain places, then it's not the sky's the limit, because the sky isn't the limit. The sky is not,
It's not a
the
ceiling.
sky doesn't even exist. Well, the sky doesn't even exist. People say the sky's the limit. It's not the limit. There is no such thing as the sky. The sky is a reflection of the sea up there. There's something way beyond the sky.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating, the limitations that I've put on myself for years. And I see the limitations that other people put on themselves. And they're just illusions in most cases.
I've got my mentor, my guru. She'd hate me calling her this, Peggy Dillon, who brought firewalking into the westernized culture, and it's a very spiritual experience. Although I align it with whatever audience I'm with and give them what they want, but the medicine of it. And she tells a story of there was in America, it's a fable, a farmer who had, his land was in disrepair, fields needed ploughed, fences were broken, the house was falling down, his wife had long gone, and he prayed for help. And this genie appeared, and he said, "How can I help you?" And he said, "Well, I need help on the land." And he said, "Well, I'm going to give you a monkey, but if you have to keep the monkey busy. There's one rule: you've just got to keep the monkey busy, and he will be in full service to you. But if you don't keep the monkey busy, he will devour you." "No problem. I've got all this work to do." So he sends the monkey off, go and plough the north field. Monkey comes back, says, "Master, it's done, it's complete. Go and plough the east field." Monkey comes back in a heartbeat, "It's done." Before you know it, all the fields are ploughed. "Right, monkey, go and mend the fences." Heartbeat, monkey's back, and the farmer's thinking, "This is brilliant, because I can keep this monkey going for ages." Before we know it, the monkey's repaired the roof, cooked the meals, redecorated. And then the farmer's like, "Oh my God, I've got nothing left for the monkey to do." And so calls for the genie again. And he says to the genie, "I've run out of work for the monkey." And the genie says, "You have to keep the monkey busy or he'll devour you." And he says, "Well, I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
And he says, "Tell him to go and build a pole." And so he says, "Monkey, go and build a pole." And he says, "Now what?" And he says, "Tell him to run up and down it until you've got another job to do."
Yeah.
And that's the mind, the monkey being the mind, that we have to give it a job to do. Otherwise, it can often, I'm not saying it always does, turn on itself with looking for self-criticism or doubt, or our buts, or landmines, or fears. And so I just find, and the other thing that I learned from Peggy that is a total game changer, the intention bit is, why would you not live life with intention? Why would you? It's like getting dressed. Why would you go anywhere without at least choosing what version of yourself you're going to enjoy being, at the very least? But the other bit was about focus. Where is your focus? And again, that goes to the monkey in the story, not the monkey mind necessarily, but however, over years, I've learned from being very left brain thinking, very over analytical, to being focused and intentional, and all of that noise, unnecessary noise, disappears. So I've not had to spend my time making it disappear. I've just spent my time bringing my focus into where do I want to be focused on, or what?
Yeah. Well, in a world that there's so many things we could focus on, and thank you for sharing that story of the monkey. I think that's such a great representation of what life is like for so many of us. And that's why, you know, thousands of years ago, they talked about mindfulness being a tool that we should all practice. And you think about the difference between thousands of years ago and now, well, it's a completely different world. I think the man who won the Nobel Prize in 1972 said the biggest problem in the world is too much information, right? And that was in 1972. And you think about then and now, there's just so much that we have a predisposition to be anxious, to be on our guard. That's how we've survived. And that's just being preyed upon through media. That's just the way it is. But we still have a choice. And I think that's what separates us. Well, I don't think, I know. Yeah. What separates us from everything else is choice. And it's just so easy to make a choice that you've made before. It's so easy to make a choice that others want you to make, or to make a choice that requires the minimum amount of effort.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we're designed to do. We're actually designed to conserve effort, to conserve energy. Cavemen would never have gone for a run for no reason. Only would have done it because there was the necessity to do it. And if we don't have necessity, you know, this kind of fuel to do. And I love to say to people, you can have a holiday. How long do you want? And most people will say a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Why wouldn't you want longer? Why not 2 months, 2 years? Some people go, oh yeah, that would be great. But for a lot of people, they go, well, I get bored. Okay, well, what would you have to do? What is it that you would feel compelled to do? You know, how long would you want to watch Netflix for? You know, at what point would you realize that you've got something to do? And I think what most people have got to do, there is a compulsion to do it, but they often need help to bring that out, which is to grow, contribute, to give of themselves. Would you rather receive a present or give a present? I think most people want to give, but working that out, it's a bit of a journey. It's a journey of exploration. It's a journey inwards. And again, that's not something we're encouraged to do, to stop and know thyself, as Socrates said. But he didn't actually mean, I don't think, know yourself. I think he actually meant know your future self, know your possibilities, know your capabilities. But, you know, people have been talking about this for thousands of years, but I think there is more of a consciousness now. I don't know what you think about this. I think COVID has really woken up a lot of people who are starting to question things a little bit more, and starting to realize, well, who am I actually being, and who do I want to become? Yeah, I think there is a big shift going on, which I see, but still, there's still so much distraction and so much temptation. What do you think?
I think you're so right. I think COVID was a bit of a pattern interrupt, where people were so used to getting the car, going to work, being in that tram line of life that they were unconscious in, and then suddenly they're jolted out of that into complete awareness of uncertainty. And I think uncertainty brings our attention to things, and then we start noticing tolerances, things that we've been tolerating that people are no longer willing to tolerate. But the job now, I think, is being there for those people in a way that is dynamic. You know, while you do your work and I run my big events, might not seem that big, but in my world they are. I'm making a difference, you know, trying to make a difference in my side of capturing. Now that you have this awareness, you want to be something bigger. Let's not just go to a safe place. Let's go if you had all the courage in the world and you were light and bright, what would you hope for your life? Whilst you've opened the door, let's blow the bloody doors off and see just what is in your potential. And that's why I run the fire walk, because once people have done that, once they've had an experience, as you know, because it was remiss of me not to realize you were the master of GMTV's first ever fire walk. But once people have walked on fire or broken glass or broken an arrow, all with intention, never just let's just do this, see if you can do it, because what's the point? It's just a waste of a vehicle. Then it's like, what's this version of you that is those thoughts that you once had about yourself, now that you know they're no longer true, and now you've stepped into doing something that you didn't think you could do? What do you want? What do you hope for yourself? And how are you going to protect this knowledge? Because often life wants us to normalize.
Yeah. Well, I think the normal is what's normal, but how about creating a new normal? And you were just talking about becoming someone else. It's like, well, you already are. You're not who you were, as I said before, but did you consciously choose to be this person?
Yeah.
Probably not, but look what you have done. I mean, if we all just stopped and realized how fantastic we really are and what we've achieved, even to get to this point in our life, to work, to pay the bills, to bring up children, whatever it is. I mean, I just think we don't realize just how amazing we really are. Of course, when you say that, then it's so easy for the other voice to come in and go, well, I'm not this and I didn't do that. So what? I would say, don't blame yourself. Don't shame yourself. You are where you are. And that's the best place to be, because, well, sounds like a cliche, but it's the only place you can be. It's just the fact of what we can be and what we are. I just think they're two separate things, personally. There was another guy who I was reading about years ago who won the Nobel Prize in 1937, which was the same year that the book Think and Grow Rich came out. He was a Hungarian, and he said that every living cell lives for one reason. He called it syntropy. So every living cell lives for one reason. It lives to grow and express itself fully. Everything exists in nature to grow and express, but it might not express because of the elements, wind, fire, water, whatever. Something might stop that from happening. With humans, we're lucky in some respects because we have choice. And if we choose growth, just know that something's going to challenge that growth, because nothing grows that doesn't have resistance to the growth.
Absolutely.
Which means some sort of challenge, pain, it's hard, and why would you want to do that, when you don't have to? Whereas what if you had to? What if you had to grow in some way? What if you had to contribute in some? Isn't contribution a form of growing? Again, I don't know. I don't have all of the answers, but I'm just as curious as I ever have been in the human experience and what can be done. What about you? What drives you? What's the fire in your belly? What is it that you feel you're here to do?
What's the point?
You do?
What's the point of me? Yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt, and this is not some sort of marketing line, where people have gone, without a doubt, it's to help people be unstoppable. I know it sounds like a cliche, the title, but what I mean by that is who we are innately meant to be that in our total power, without the layers of limitation, doubt, criticism, conforming, looking at the menu of life, choosing their own menu of life. That's without a shadow of a doubt. And when we were talking earlier about, I always knew my childhood was so different in a sort of normal traumatic way. When trauma is your norm, I knew as a kid, I've got this life for a reason. I then had to work through all my own trauma and the patterns it then recreated. And it was, even when I met you 20 years ago, I was in that state of recreating the same patterns I'd been brought up with. And it was a coaching book that I read that said, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I then completely I created deliberately, intentionally, with all the risk in the world attached to it, this life that I've got now. And but back in the day, I'm 53. Back in the day, I wanted to work with people and help people. So I thought, oh, I'll be a nurse. And then, well, I wanted to be a vet. But then when I nearly passed out when the dog was being operated on, I thought, well, I'll be a nurse. And then I wanted to work with terminally ill people. But then I found it too, it brought me down. I thought that can't be right. I always, and I, and I wanted to be an actress, but my dad had told me that I'd have to sleep with the director. I knew that's all right was not the right answer to give me dad at 11. Yeah, that's fine. But now I'm doing today's version of what I always knew. I was trying to interpret it in my understanding of what was available in life back then. And I would see motivational speakers, Pete, and think, oh, that should be me. And yet I used to shit myself at presentations. But I knew in my heart I was meant to do it. So what about for you? And also, I want to know, I know we haven't got long left, but I want to know your biggest teaching as well and how you got it. Have you got time?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So first off, thank you for sharing, about your journey and the trying of things to work out what it is that you ultimately want to do. It's really inspiring to hear that, when people, well, I did that because I thought I might be what I want to do, but it wasn't. But I did that. Then I did this. That wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I found my calling. It's like the hero's journey, that you go out there and on the journey of exploration to go and find out. And sometimes the only way to find out, you've got to take some time out and you've got to try different things to find out what it is, your ownliness, your uniqueness, what is it, your unique contribution to the world. In terms of public speaking, I mean, that is a big challenge for a lot of people. It's supposedly still one of the biggest fears in the world because people are worried about what people think. People are concerned that the people in the audience might see a weakness in the person. But when you can get to a point in your life and when you've got such a big message and it's too important, then you can get to a point where you don't really care because what you have to say is more important than what people think about you.
Yeah.
And of course, there's changing your relationship with yourself, and these are all things that can be done to build more confidence in you. But you asked me about my biggest life lesson. I mean, some people might be surprised that my wife died in May. She was my wife. She was my best friend. She was my business partner. And it's been the most challenging time of my life. It's been the biggest stop in my life. And if I look back through my life, I can realize it's all these big stops along the way. As I have a little thing here, little paddle saying stop and go on it, that it's the biggest stops that I've had that have been my greatest teachings. So my biggest learning has been, don't wait for a disaster to stop. Consciously create stops to really focus on the things that are really important, to reconnect, to re-engage. And I do that every day pretty much, because if I don't engage with being the person I want to be intentionally, it's just too easy. It's too easy to give up. It's too easy to lose faith. I mean, I could talk about what I've learned from my wife for hours, because even before she died, she was given 18 months to live 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was incredible who we both became, because we were incredibly intentional. How we felt had nothing to do with it, because dying wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And she will always be my greatest inspiration. I'm so empowered and inspired by her. I miss her terribly.
Yeah.
But her motto was just get on with it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting on with putting my best foot forwards as best as I can every single day.
I really honor you. I followed your journey a little bit, and you were constantly, both of you were constantly giving through that whole period in a really heartfelt way. And I think the way that you show up today, even with your heart as it is, I don't want to put an adjective to it, but is what's driving you at the moment to show up the way you are doing when Hannah, isn't it?
Yeah. I think there's a few, sorry, I think there's a few things. I think that what's driving me is being intentional, and probably for the first time in my life, not thinking too far ahead, just being where I am. Especially for years, I wasn't doing that. I was living in fear of her getting sick again.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. It's the most beautiful place to be for me, allowing myself to experience the waves of emotion and the waves of loss. I say it's a beautiful thing because I'm allowing myself. The waves are shorter, they're wider apart now, they seem to be, but that could change tomorrow. But what's driving me is her legacy. Her legacy was just get on with it. If she was standing here right now, she'd be dancing, she'd be laughing, she would be telling me, enjoy life. What was the point of our life if you weren't gonna, if you're not gonna carry on enjoying it? That's living in someone's memory, their honor. My parents were the same. My mum died 2 years ago. My dad died 5 years ago. They're not here. I am. I'm still here. I can pinch myself. I'm still here. And I genuinely want to make the most of what's left. And everyone I meet, like this interaction with you, I'm not just bringing me to the table. I am here, but I'm bringing my experience. I'm bringing the people that poured into me. You don't have to know that, but they're all here because I am who I am because of them. So that to me is what life is. It's about carrying through what's been given to you. And it's not always easy because of what we've all been through in our lives. Like you said, trauma. But being human is such an amazing opportunity, experience. It's bizarre. It's just strange. But it's a beautiful thing. Living is beautiful, but it's not always easy.
I think it's not easy. It's not easy, but it not being easy doesn't mean it's not good with that. Because so often you hear people say, I can do it. Well, it'll be hard, but hard's all right. Hard is, as you were saying earlier, that resistance or that actually hard requires our attention. That's what's really happening. And quite often I'm wondering if things are hard that other people say, not you just now. Is it hard, or is it that you've just got to be awake? And quite often when people are thinking something's going to be hard, it's not like, yeah, no, it's not hard. It just means you can't sleepwalk doing it. You have to be present, intentional, focused.
Yeah,
conscious.
I think we've been sold that this kind of idea or this dream that life should be sunshine and rainbows, but it isn't. It is a challenge. It is difficult. And I think that if you don't look at it like that and realize that what's one of the greatest things that you'll do, I'll do, it isn't how much I laughed. That will definitely be one of them, but it's how I dealt with the adversity that came in, and I feel like I was trained by to deal with grief through my dad dying. That was challenging. Then my mum dying, that was even more challenging, but it was a bit easier because I've done that. That made the recent passing very hard, but it was a bit easier because I knew what it was. I it didn't make it necessarily any easier, but it was something I knew I had the capacity to move through something. Which, who is it that said what hurts instructs? I don't know. But it has been great instruction for a different version of me. If you could see me a couple of years ago, or even 6 months ago, and see content that I was putting out, or listening to what I said, you'd think, Pete, what is wrong with you? You're not who you were. You're different. I am different, just like you're different.
Yeah, we're growing, aren't we? We're growing, we're learning. And it's interesting when I went on a date yesterday. I'll keep this really short because I know you've got to go. I went on first date I've been on in 20 years. And not because I've only just become single. Well, he was ex-CID and he did interrogate me. He turned his chair straight at me. I was all for, but what was my point? I forgot my flipping point.
You went on a date. Well, don't worry. I want.
But I know what my point was. He wanted to know about my past relationships, and I thought I can give you that, but that's not the Lisa that you're talking to now. And he asked me, did you need to go into your professional self to feel confident for this date? And I'm like, I can't. All I can say is you're perceiving confidence, but what I feel is fine. And what had happened, Pete, is he had looked at Lisa that's online, who is exactly the same as this. I'm too lazy, or if it requires me to have a filter, then I'm in some way out of alignment with my life. So, but he saw that I was being the me that he's seen online and thought I was being professional me, and he couldn't get past it. But the bit that was interesting about dating, because I'm really new to it, is how people want an explanation of your past relationships as though it's predicting the future relationship with them. I'm like, if that were the case, I'd have learned flipping nothing. There's no point talking about it. It's somebody hardly.
You can understand why people do that, but I would look at it really different. If it was me, I would want to know, what are you passionate about?
Yes.
What do you love? What excites you? Those are the sorts of things I would like to know. But I think people are worried that history might repeat itself, and dating is a fascinating. I'm
not sure I'm prepared for it. I might just stay wedded to my work, and that I do know, and it's really rewarding, and every effort you put towards it makes a difference. So, but
I was just going to say, literally, and I mean this, thank you for doing what you do, and the work that you do.
Well, you inspired me, Pete, because you inspired me, because now I do speak on the stage and I am just myself. You might think you want to change that a bit, Lisa, but thank you, but carry on thanking me.
No, I just, the work that you do, because I would imagine that you inspire a lot of people to break out and just to feel that they can, and to feel supported. It's hard to put that all into words, what that really means, but it means it's love. What you do with love.
Absolutely.
And it's infectious, and you can feel it, and it's like, it's not for the money, it's not for the recognition, it's just because you have a passion for life, a love for life, and you're sharing that with people, and that is very evident to me.
Thank you for
so when this podcast goes out, I'll share it. I'll share it with the people that follow me, because it's an opportunity for them to experience you.
Thank you.
You have to. I appreciate you saying thank you, but I'm doing it because it is the right thing to do. I said to someone recently about, why are you being so kind and helping me when you don't have to? And she said, it's the most natural thing to do. But for a lot of people, it's become unnatural or unfamiliar. Like, what do you need? How can I help you? That's what Martin Luther King said is the most important question we should be asking each other. What can we do for each other?
Yeah.
Do you need anything? Can I help you?
Yeah.
I've been helped so much.
I'll send you my list.
No, send me the list and give me till the end of the week. I do need to wrap this up.
Thank you so much,
okay.
Pete.
It's a pleasure.
Let's
do it again.
I can't. Yes, let's, because I'm not nearly finished with you. I've got a whole list of things I thought we could talk around, and we've gone into so much about each of them, and I've loved it, and I can't wait to listen to it back. Thank you. You've been
let's do a part
so generous.
Listen, again, it's what an honor, and I mean that. Let's do part 2. Get it out there. I'll get it out there as well. You just tell me. Let's get some feedback from some people, and then let's come back and do part 2 based on what people said they got from this.
Brilliant. We will do.
All right. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.
Ta-ta for now.